Okay, testing mic. Can you hear me? Okay, great. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nancy Morisseau. I'm with the Haitian American Lawyers Association of New York, or HALANI, and I am very excited about this opportunity to speak with you about a humanitarian issue that is happening in the backyard of the United States, our very own backyard, and the legal decisions that have created this situation. So first, let me just thank Shaina Salman and the National Black Law Students Association for this opportunity, for creating this webinar to try and educate a broader audience on the issues and the human rights violations. Just to do a quick plug for HALANI, the Haitian American Lawyers Association of New York is a professional organization that seeks to promote and encourage participation by Haitian American professionals and others who are interested in the legal jurisprudence, of Haitian Americans in the Haitian diaspora. So if you're interested in joining or learning more about our organization, you can go to our website, halani.org. And I will mention another organization that we joined, a coalition in 2015 called Rights for All in DR, which really is an advocacy coalition that seeks to redress the human rights violations taking place currently in the Dominican Republic. And I think you were emailed a fact sheet from Rights for All in DR, or you'll be emailed that information later. And a great deal of the talk will be about the information on that fact sheet. So what I like to do is just do a quick overview. We have only about like 40 minutes, I think, or less than an hour to discuss this issue. So everything will be a broad brush, just to give you a sense of the issues. And then, of course, I'm open to taking questions, preferably if you can just write them down and give them to me at the end. But if you feel like your question is a burning question and must be answered now, you can answer it via Google Hangout, and I will do my best to answer it for you. So just to contextualize the issues, generally, in 1916, which is about 100 years ago, the United States invaded the Dominican Republic and set up a labor recruitment system that the DR used for the majority of the 20th century. And in 1939, the DR and the Haitian Republic entered into a modus operandi, or a bilateral agreement that sought to regulate this, the labor pool of migrants going from Haiti to the Dominican Republic. There's what they call push and pull factors. The push factors is that on the Haitian side, you had people who were seeking work. You had a large population of people who needed to be employed. They were in poverty. And also on the DR side, you had seasonal work that needed to be done and a shortage of laborers. So this was a good bilateral agreement to try and meet the needs of both countries. So as time went on, majority of the people who went to the DR from Haiti, a percentage of them did not always return to Haiti, but they stayed in the DR to wait the next season of the sugar plantations or whatever agricultural area they were working in. And so they stayed there, and what they call company compounds for agricultural workers, which is called the bateys. And today, most of these remaining migrants and their children who were born in the Dominican Republic have moved to non-sugar plantation villages or urban slums. So this just wanted to contextualize it for you, because what's critically important here is to know that there are two types of individuals, two types of groups of people that we need to bear in mind, because different laws applies to them with different outcomes. So you have the Haitian migrants who are Haitian nationals, and they went to work in the Dominican Republic. And then these Haitian nationals who had children, had them in the Dominican Republic while they were there. Between 1929 and 2010, the Constitution of the Dominican Republic held that a person born within the borders of the DR or on the soil of the DR was considered a Dominican citizen. And that's considered, the legal term for that is jus soli. There are three ways you can generally obtain citizenship. One is by jus soli, which is being born in the country or born on the soil. And then the other way is through by blood or family relation. That means that one of your parents or both your parents are citizens of the country in which you are born. And then the third way is naturalization. And those are just broad categories. So in 2004, let me just back up. In 1929, between 2010, again, yes, the Dominican Constitution says that if you're born on the soil, you're a Dominican citizen, and it had an exception for foreigners in transit. So children of foreigners in transit born in the Dominican Republic were not considered Dominican citizens. And up until around 2004, when a new migration law was enacted, the courts, and it was interpreted to mean, foreigners in transit was interpreted to mean those who were children of diplomats or those who were traveling within the country for a period up to 10 days. In 2004, under the migration law, it began to, the Dominican authorities also included as foreigners in transit those children born to undocumented individuals. During this time, a case was making its way through the court systems in the DR and also landed in the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. The case is called Yanni Basico versus Dominican Republic. And in that case, the court held, the Inter-American Court of Human Rights held that a parent's immigration status cannot be used to determine the citizenship of the child. So basically, no more can the Dominican Republic say that because your parents are undocumented, therefore, if you're born in our country, you fall into the foreigner in transit exception, and thus you are not a citizen. Fast forwarding to now to 2010, the Constitution of the Dominican Republic was changed, and it was changed to no longer be primarily for those who are a jus soli citizenship, obtain jus soli citizenship, to now to one of jus sanguinis. So basically now you move no longer from 2010, if you were born in the DR, would you be considered a Dominican citizen? Moving forward 3 years, another case that ended up in the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, which is the one that happened on September 23rd, 2013. The Inter-American Court of Human Rights found that the Dominican Republic was in violation of Yanni Basico. I'm sorry. Let me go back. I apologize. That's wrong. September 23rd, 2013 is the Constitutional Court decision that held, and the Dominican Constitutional Court decision. The Dominican Constitutional Court interprets the Constitution, obviously. And so they held that Ms. DeGee, who at the time she was born in the Dominican Republic, her parents could not prove their legal presence, their documented presence in the country, and as such, she was erroneously granted citizenship. Ms. DeGee was born in the DR, I think, in 1984, and in the Constitution at the time of her birth said that if she was born in the country, she was a Dominican citizen. So in this case now, the court says, if your parents are undocumented at the time you were born, you fall under the foreigner in transit exception, and thus you are no longer a Dominican citizen. That's one. And two, the court held that this was retroactive to 1929. So anyone who was granted citizenship from 1929 until the court's decision in 2013, and their parents could not prove, their documented status or regular status in the country, they were wrongly granted citizenship. The court ordered the Dominican government to go through the civil registry rolls to identify these individuals and come up with a plan to address their status in the country. So to contextualize how many people are affected by this, in 2012, in a joint, I think it was a joint United Nations Population Fund and Dominican government survey of people of Haitian descent who were of the first generation born in the country, found that there was 210,000 people in that category. So 210,000 people of first generation born Dominicans of Haitian descent were present in the country. So if the court's decision is retroactive to 1929, we know as a bottom number, 210,000 people are affected, and that's the first generation, and thus going back to 1929 is like 3 or 4 generations. So definitely the number is higher. So where do we, international outcry, people thought it was absurd, and a lot of pressure on the Dominican government to resolve this situation. So the Dominican president and the legislature came up with what they call a naturalization law, Law 169-14. And the naturalization law sought to give those affected by the Constitutional Court ruling a pathway to citizenship. And in creating this pathway to citizenship, the Law 169-14 created 2 categories of people. One is called Group A, and those are the individuals who were born in the country and were, at the time of their birth or at some point, were registered in the civil registry. The Dominican government has determined that about 55,000 people fall into this category. The next category, which is the largest category of people, is Group B, and those are the individuals who were born in the country, but they were never registered in the civil registry. And they had until February 1st, 2015 to register. And then within 2 years of the date of their registration, they can apply for naturalized citizenship. So think about Group B for a moment. These are people who were born in the country. At the time of their birth, they were considered Dominican citizens. Now they were stripped of their citizenship, which is when you hear the word denationalized, that's what that means. They're stripped of their citizenship. And they are now forced to register to get like a temporary status, residency status. And then within 2 years from the date of their registration, they can apply to be considered for naturalized citizenship, to apply to be as if they were foreigners in the country of their own birth. So that makes them already considers them second-class citizens. In addition, Group A is considered second-class citizens because Group A, even though they were already registered in the civil registry, these 55,000 people were now put on a separate registry from everyone else. And my understanding is they were given also a different colored card, identification documents, so that they can be identified as these 55,000 people. So what is the net effect of these laws and rulings is that, one, we've created a group of people who is considered, Group A is considered citizens and they were properly registered, but they are still considered second class because they're in a different category than everyone else. And then you had the Group B who had to now apply for a temporary stay and then apply for naturalization. just as a point of information, around February 1st, 2015, out of the hundreds of thousands of people eligible to apply for this aspect of Group B, only about 9,000 people were able to apply. And that was due to a lot of procedural and other hurdles that was instituted by those who were administering the process to really keep the numbers down. And as you can see, that was effective. So where are we today? Today, the decision of the 2013 Constitutional Court created the largest stateless population in the Americas and the 5th largest in the world. Stateless means that these people are not recognized by any country. They're not recognized by the country of their birth, and they are not recognized by the country of their parents. And we can talk a bit more about that in the questions if anyone has any questions about that, but primarily they are now people without a home country. And people without a home country in modern society, how we access our rights and is through our national identity. You know, when we talk about our rights to vote, to get an education, to own property, to whatever, it's through our national identity. And these individuals now cannot register their kids to go to school. They can't own property. They live in the shadows because they are fear of being, you know, expelled from the country of their birth. So coming now back to the Haitian migrants, around the time that Law 169-14 was trying to regulate this group of individuals who were born in the country, there was another law trying to regularize the status of the migrants. And if you recall, the migrants are Haitian nationals. And so basically this law called the regularization plan sought to kind of get a census of the people in the country and ask them to register so that the DR knows who is in the country. And the deadline for that was June 17, 2015. And over, close to about 290,000, I think the number is like 288,000 and change people applied for, were able to apply during this period. And they were granted temporary status. It's very important to understand that they were not granted citizenship. They were just being granted temporary status, allowing them to work in the country. So what happened to the people then who were born in the country, who could not have applied, who did not apply by February 1st? If you recall, I said by February 1st, only 9,000 people in Group B had applied, and you had this group of people in Group A, about 55,000. So altogether, you have 64,000 people, let's say, out of over 200,000 people. Well, in the eyes of the Dominican government, the remaining people are considered Haitians. And so the advice that was given to most of them was, you have to go now and apply as part of the regularization plan. And to apply for the regularization plan, you had to show that you were a Haitian citizen. And if you recall, these individuals were born in the Dominican Republic, so how would they show that they were Haitian citizens? So that was problem number one with that. If there are any questions at this time, I'm happy to take some questions, a couple of questions, just to clarify anything that I have said right now. I'll just take a quick minute to just see where I am on my notes. So as of August 2015, the Dominican government officially began forcibly removing people from the country. And I have one question. The question is, what, if anything, are international organizations doing to address this issue? when you say address this issue, I assume you mean the issue of statelessness, right? Or if you mean the broader issue of, yeah, I mean, I assume you mean the issue of statelessness. So, for example, Amnesty International had in the beginning tried to help people get their documents, whether under the regularization plan or under the law 169-14. You had other people Open Society, Justice Initiative, Robert F. Kennedy Center, and all these other organizations. They were working to try and quickly get people their documents, also spread the word about what the requirements were in terms of trying to get their documentation in time for them to meet the deadlines. Now that the deadlines have passed, I'm not sure too much what they are doing, but in terms of what's on the ground, I do think that they're still working, trying to help people figure out their paperwork, keep track of who's being removed from the country. Amnesty International in particular in 2013, 14, and 15 documented that the Dominican government was, quietly kicking people out of the country, either picking them up off the street and dumping them on the Haitian side of the border. But as of August 2015, the Dominican government began what they call official removal proceedings. And earlier this month, or at some point this month, they released some figures which showed that about 129,000 people of Haitian descent ended up on the Haitian border. And if any of you read the article that was emailed around, the one from the New York Times called In Exile, you see that there's a crisis happening at the border. We have what they call, camps forming at the border where people are living in really impoverished and destitute conditions. They're hungry. The children are not having access to schools. There's been cholera present in the country. At least 10 people as of December have died, 100 more infected. I think there's also fear that the Zika virus that is making its way through Latin America will find its way there as well. So this law had some real humanitarian, real significant implications for people and in their lives. And the fact that you have about 129,000 people landing on the Haitian side of the island between August and February 25th, or let's say right where we are today, really should clue you in about the lack of due process and adherence to international law with regards to removal proceedings. And just to quickly touch on what those would include would be, you have to give people notice of that they will be deported or expelled. In the case of those who are born in the country, they're not deported, they're expelled, right? Because you can't deport someone who's born in the country. You kick them out if you expel them from the country of their birth. They're supposed to get notice. They're supposed to not separate families. They're supposed to be told when and where they're going to be deported. They should have an opportunity to contest the deportation or prove their status to be present in their country. So if you see that's happening within a short period of time, it does beg the question, what is the formal proceeding that is being undertaken to so quickly have people dropped off at the border, being picked up in predominantly Black neighborhoods, rounded up on the streets, mainly because of the way they look, because of their last name, or whether they can't say a certain, their Spanish is not as fluent. So that's where we are right now with the crisis. Our goal with regards to Rights for All in DR is to really raise awareness of this issue, to bring people's attention to it, because at this point, truly all the legal avenues have been exhausted, and what is left is international pressure. We need people to become educated on this issue, to follow the issue, to write their own legislators about this, and ask, where is America standing on this, and what are we doing about this crisis that is happening in our own backyard? So that's pretty much my overview for right now. I will take questions if anyone has any. Should I go over anything or? Everybody understood that? Okay. Okay, so let's talk about, let me see what else I can try and clarify. Let me just look at my notes here. So some of the issues that have come up in this context is that the Dominican government has argued that it has its right to its sovereignty and the right to regulate its borders. And that is absolutely true, and no one disputes that. However, violations of human rights have no borders. And the Dominican government agreed with this principle when it entered into international treaties, which it promised to follow. And really what people are asking is for the DR to follow its own laws and to really determine, to just really return citizenship based on the Dominican laws. I have a question. The question is, what has been the Haitian government's response? And this question is a very good question. We do get that question a lot. And the way to think about this and answering the question is that there are two groups of people. One is that the Haitian government has an obligation to the people who are Haitian migrants, who are Haitian nationals and who are the migrants, to really regulate, to make sure that they receive the documents that are necessary so that they can prove their status in the country. In the Dominican Republic. So if you recall, I mentioned that there was a regularization plan, and the regularization plan required that people of Haitian descent apply to be temporary status. And they had to show that they had, in order to get this temporary status, they had to prove that they were Haitian nationals. So the Haitian government had an obligation to provide documents showing that they were Haitian citizens or what have you. That has not gone as well, I think, on the Haitian government's part. There's a lot of finger pointing as whose fault is that. Some say that the program on the DR side was poorly implemented, and then others have said that the Haitian government has charged and has not provided the documents. But at the end of the day, the Haitian government does have an obligation to ensure that these individuals receive their proper documentation. With respect to the people born in the Dominican Republic, the Haitian government does not have an obligation to them. I have another question here. Let's see. What steps is Haiti taking to address the issue of statelessness? Okay, so I was trying to answer that in the upcoming, and I think that it's very, and this is why I was saying that it's important to keep in mind the groups, that there are two groups. So to try and help people understand that, for example, my mother was born in Haiti and became a naturalized citizen, but I was born here in the United States. But let's assume she was an undocumented person of Haitian descent, and when she came to the US and she birthed me in the United States. If I was born in the United States, I was born in the United States, so I'm a US citizen. If the United States strips me of citizenship, I do not become a Haitian citizen right? Because before 2012, Haiti did not have dual citizenship. And you had to also take under the various nationality laws, further clarifying the Haitian Constitution, you had to have been a native born Haitian, and you could not have renounced your Haitian citizenship at any point. So really the Haitian government has engaged, and it's our understanding that the Haitian government and the Dominican government have engaged in diplomatic negotiations in the background, but truly the obligation of resolving statelessness belonged to the Dominican government, not the Haitian government, because these individuals are Dominican citizens. They were born in the Dominican Republic. They were considered to be Dominican citizens at the time of their birth, and their Dominican government stripped them of that citizenship. So the one that can rectify it would be the Dominican government. And I hope that answers that question, and that and makes it clear. Another question I have here is, how can law students further advocate and bring awareness to this issue of statelessness? I think that's an excellent question, because as I mentioned before, where we are now is we really need international pressure on the Dominican government and to try and change the situation. And what you guys are doing is exactly what needs to happen. We need to educate more people on this issue. We need people to read and engage in conversations about this issue, to ask questions about of their government, of their legislatures, both where you are attending school or at home, wherever you vote, to take a resolution denouncing the practices of the stripping people of their citizenship. That is a direct human rights violation, and we have worked really hard with a number of municipalities and state legislatures to take resolutions on this issue. So for example, we've taken New York State Assembly pass a resolution, Massachusetts pass a resolution, Illinois pass a resolution. You should do more things on your campus and invite people to come and speak on this issue, to ask questions. Maybe as a student body, you can take a resolution denouncing this issue, and maybe coordinate with other student groups. And it'll be great if the National Black Law Student Association took a position on this issue. We will help you craft that if you want, to set a standard for what we consider treatment of Black people throughout the world, and people of color and ethnic minorities, and just the rights of ethnic minorities in the countries that they are residing in, to ensure that their human rights are not violated. So I'm going to stop there for a few minutes and see if there are any further questions that anyone may have. Okay, so in wrapping up, I just want to thank National Black Law Student Association and Shaina Solomon for inviting me to speak with you. There's a lot of information to cover in this area. I did a really quick overview of all the various points and issues and background on here, but I encourage you to read the case, TC 16813, which is the ruling that was held in 2013. But you can read it in Spanish, and you can also read an English translation, which is available on halani.org. I encourage you to follow Rights for All in DR on Facebook and on Twitter, engage in the conversation, and to continue to do programs such as this to encourage people to learn more about the legal issues, because there's a lot of factual misinformation out there. So it's really important that, this is done. So thank you again, and all the best to everyone.